Deixa eu abrir o áudio primeiro. Agora sim, salve, salve família Sideral. Bom dia para todo mundo, Robson Rodrigues. Meu nome, para quem não me conhece. É um prazer, muito grande estar aqui com vocês. Só pela madrugada, são 1h48. A gente acompanha aqui. E já vamos trazer aqui já direto, já. Mas antes, nosso agradecimento todo especial a você que nos assiste. Muito obrigado antes de tudo. Meu nome é Robson Rodrigues, sou repórter, editor e apresentador aqui do canal Olhar Sideral. Muito obrigado pela sua presença, por você que vai assistir agora ou vai assistir depois. Se puder, já deixa o seu like, já deixa o seu joinha e sua ajuda na divulgação do nosso canal. Antes, se inscreva para dar aquela força e apoiar o nosso canal. Se você gosta de astronomia, ciência, tecnologia, você está no lugar certo. Bom, eu quero agradecer o apoio cultural da internet, a maior e melhor rede de fibra ótica de toda a região, atendendo ao sul do Espírito Santo, norte, noroeste fluminense e também chegando à região dos lagos e também no Grande Rio. Acesse o site www.internet.com.br e confira a gama de combos e facilidades que a internet tem a oferecer, como por exemplo 200 MB instalação grátis, R$ 89,99 com Wi-Fi litro mais para nomes. Bom, se você quer uma velocidade maior, tem 600 MB também com instalação grátis, R$ 129,99 mensais, Wi-Fi litro para montes, login e rede. Acesse o site www.internet.com.br e confira os combos e as facilidades, os recursos e as grandes novidades que a internet tem de oferecer. Bom, já passando para a próxima, passando para cá, mas antes a gente já deixa aqui a identificação e vamos chamar aqui o decoupling. Ok. Essa é a sala de controle Houston, já acompanhando aí a câmera externa para monitorar o decoupling da Endeavour. Tripulação, né? Tripulação 3 da SpaceX, atendendo aí a mais um acordo de comercial, né? Com a Estação Espacial Internacional, SpaceX e a NASA, essa grande parceria que tem dado certo. Inclusive, já vemos aí sinais da Exxon Space, que já fez uma visita agora nos últimos meses, no último mês, melhor dizendo, à Estação Espacial Internacional, comprovando o início de uma nova era, um novo ciclo na exploração espacial de órbita baixa, e já prevendo, obviamente, as missões à Lua e também a Marte. Com essas belas imagens da Estação Espacial Internacional, e vamos aguardando dentro em breve já a liberação da Crew. Só pra cá, acho que aqui não dá pra fazer, mas tá legal. Vamos acompanhando então.
From there, a phasing burn will place Dragon on a trajectory back to Earth.
Next on its trip home is deorbit and Triton landing, which covers all operations after the final departure maneuver. That includes trunk separation, closure of the nose cone, a deorbit burn, deployment of the drogue and main parachutes, and finally splashdown off the Florida coast, at which point our teams will recover the Crew-3 astronauts inside Crew Dragon from the water.
We're expecting the call for the Go No Go poll in just a few minutes or so from now.
So it's been 6 months for these astronauts since they arrived on station, but it was only a week ago that we saw
as duas imagens, tanto da ISS quanto também da
Yeah, I think that's really valuable because as we saw
vai dar delay, tá dando delay, tanto para o KSC quanto também para a SpaceX. Vamos deixar só aqui. Vou deixar aqui então o sinal da SpaceX. Vamos continuar acompanhando o decoupling.
Yeah, I'm sure they're pretty excited to come back home. They've been up there again for about 6 months doing science experiments, working, up on the International Space Station. So I'm sure they're probably very excited to come back and see their families back here on planet Earth.
I was thinking about that. It's been 175 days that they've been on the station. And besides friends and family, what's something that you think you would look forward to coming home to?
Yeah, I think probably the top thing would just be like spending time with my family,
yeah,
right?
That's the best.
Lembrando também para informar ocorreu hoje a troca de comando da Estação Espacial Internacional. A bordo da Estação Espacial Internacional, o astronauta da NASA Tom Marshburn entregou o comando da Estação Espacial Internacional ao cosmonauta Oleg Artemiev da Roscosmos durante uma cerimônia de mudança de comando hoje, 4 de maio, melhor dizendo, ontem, 4 de maio. A missão ocorreu a bordo, obviamente, da estação do posto orbital. E Marshall e Artemiev estão no meio de missões de longa duração, vivendo e trabalhando a bordo do laboratório de microgravidade para avançar o conhecimento científico e demonstrar novas tecnologias para futuras missões de exploração humana e robótica. Marshburn e seus companheiros de tripulação do Crew-3, Kayla Barron, Raj Shari e o astronauta da ESA, Matthias Maurer, viveram a bordo do laboratório orbital desde 11 de novembro de 2021 e todos partem agora à noite da Estação Espacial Internacional. O fechamento da escotilha está definido para 23h20, horário da costa leste, com o desencaixe a seguir às 1h05, horário da costa leste. O quarteto da tripulação comercial deve aterrissar na costa da Flórida às 12h43, horário da costa leste, na sexta-feira, 6 de maio. Os astronautas do Crew-3, da tripulação 3, trabalharam nas operações finais de carga do Dragon e da configuração do Dragon para a partida, saída final e fechamento da escotilha, bem como também a transferência de hardware de emergência do Dragon para a Estação Espacial antes da partida. A equipe do Endurance encerrou as operações de pesquisa que incluíram a transferência e embalagem de amostras congeladas e tijolos de gelos do congelador do laboratório Minus-Aid para a Estação Espacial Internacional, em sacos frios em preparação para o retorno à Terra. A MELF fornece o armazenamento da Estação Espacial e também o congelamento rápido de amostras biológicas e também de ciências da vida. Os astronautas do Crew-3 também removeram e arrumaram os seus Action Watch, ou os seus relógios, seus dispositivos pequenos, leves e também usados no pulso, que detectam simultaneamente o movimento do corpo e a intensidade da luz. Eles são usados para avaliar a adaptação sono-vigília ou o ciclo cardiano e também para determinar se as viagens espaciais têm impacto nos padrões do sono-vigília dos tripulantes. Os 4 mais novos astronautas da estação, Kjell Lindgren, Bob Hines, Jaxa Watkins e Samantha Christofferet, tiveram um dia de trabalho leve, realizando algumas tarefas de ciência da vida, manutenção de laboratório e inventário. O quarteto e seus 3 tripulantes russos devem ter um dia de folga após a partida da missão SpaceX Crew-3. No segmento russo da estação, Artemiev e o seu companheiro de voo Sergei Korkazov e Denis Matveev realizaram verificações mensais de manutenção em laptops, equipamentos de vídeo, bem como também treinamento físico e um experimento de pilotagem robótica. A diretoria do Centro Espacial Kennedy, Janet Petro, fornece uma atualização sobre o centro e seus programas para líderes comunitários em 2022. É o 70º aniversário do Centro Espacial Kennedy e os espectadores podem ajudar a comemorar o aniversário de diamante do centro com pôsteres para download também e outros conteúdos no site do Kennedy Space Center. Lembrando que toda a Crew ou toda a Dragon ela tem tanto a sua, no momento da sua decolagem, o seu liftoff, desde o momento da sua decolagem até o momento do atracamento ou da docagem, é todo automatizado. A mesma coisa ocorre também no momento do decoupling. O sistema é tudo automatizado.
from the International Space Station, its home for the last 6 months.
First step in the automatic undocking sequence is for the umbilicals to retract. These umbilicals connect Dragon systems to the space station, transferring power, telemetry, and commands between the two vehicles throughout Dragon's stay. Once that's complete, Dragon will unlatch itself from the space station by releasing the 12 hard capture hooks in 2 separate phases. All that combined will take roughly 4.5 minutes, and then Dragon will be ready to depart from the space station and begin to move itself further and further away using its thrusters.
And Dragon's initial departure from the station is a little different from other docked vehicles like the Soyuz, which relies on springs to push it away from the docking port. Dragon will actually execute 2 short thruster firings to undock using a combination of the 12 Draco engines around the base of the capsule, with the first of those firings breaking any stiction between Dragon and the docking port, and the second slowly backing the spacecraft away. We're expecting the call for the undocking sequence to begin within about the next 10 minutes. Like I was pointing out earlier before we heard that go call, we have these solar panels, solar cells, I guess is a better term for them, on the trunk of Dragon, and we mentioned that Dragon is still connected to the International Space Station and still connected to the umbilicals, so it's receiving power from the station, but once we undock, Dragon gets solar power that will power the vehicle, and then once we are committed to coming home, we'll let go of that trunk, it'll burn up in the atmosphere, and our astronauts will splash down safely.
We're just around 3 minutes away from that undocking sequence beginning. We did hear that go for readiness, so we are on track for Crew-3's departure and ready for them to head home back to Earth.
And since Crew-4 arrived a week ago, I would call a crew of 7 on the space station a full house, but it's been a crew of 11 for the last week, so I call it a fuller house. So it'll take the crew complement back down to 7 astronauts and cosmonauts aboard the International Space Station. 3 of these astronauts were first-time flyers. Tom Marshburn is the astronaut who had 2 previous flights, so everyone's coming home with a little more experience now.
Yeah, and I guess this, for their first flight, this is also their first return.
Yes.
And again, this return will be about a 23-hour ride. So once they undock, it won't be, right back down to Earth just yet. They'll get to cruise in space for a little bit.
And they have some off time during that as well. So they'll get to sleep if they want to. They have options to eat meals while on board. I'm sure they'll be enjoying the last few views from space, sticking close to the window and taking some pictures.
And they're currently in their suits. This is a pretty close-up view. They're currently in their suits, in their seats, but once they move away and are a safe distance away from the space station, they can actually get out of their suits, get comfortable, enjoy the ride.
We mentioned a couple of those burns that will help them break away from the space station and then separate them from the station. And they are in their suits, and they just lowered their visors as well. This is all precautionary because these are not major burns, as I might want to call them. These are slow moving. We want to move pretty carefully when we're around the space station, especially while we're inside the keep out sphere and the approach ellipsoid. Those are 2 invisible boundaries that we use to monitor the distance of spacecraft arriving and departing. I believe we're coming up on about a minute until the undock sequence begins.
This is such an incredible view from the space station. You can see a portion of the space station with Dragon still docked and Earth in the background. It just looks so incredible there.
That's the Indian Ocean below them right now. Dragon is docked to the Harmony port on the International Space Station, has called that location home for the last 6 months. We didn't see a port relocation with this vehicle like we saw for Crew 1 and Crew 2. This has been their home since they arrived back in November.
And Dragon SpaceX on the big loop, we know we are past the targeted undock time. We are still going to be discussing the timing issues that you are seeing on your displays and on the ground. So stand by for some more words on a new undock time.
That was the core crew operations and resources engineer speaking with the crew on board Dragon. And there's the core there on your left-hand screen. Just mentioning that they are still checking on a couple things that they had their eye on. Undocking was scheduled for 10:05 p.m. Pacific time, but there is some margin in the schedule. So once they clear what they're looking into, we should be go for undocking.
Yes, the Corps mentioned to the crew they have an hour window for this undock time. So it's a little more leeway than sometimes when we see launches on the ground that have to go at that very second. So they have time to look through this, and that's a TDRS, Tracking Data and Relay Satellite System, times that they're receiving on Dragon. It's pulling in two different types of data, and they expect it to resolve itself once Dragon has departed the space station and its umbilicals are no longer attached. But just want to take the moment to discuss that on the ground before they say farewell. You were talking about the core. That person is here in Hawthorne, but we have someone similar in Houston, and that's the Capcom, or the Capsule Communicator. They are not speaking with the astronauts on the capsule, even though that might sound confusing. They're actually the person who relays information from Mission Control Houston to the astronauts on the space station. So those two roles are incredibly important, and we only have those two people that are speaking with the crew. That way there aren't too many voices at one time. It's an easy flow of information.
And there you can see on your screen, on the left-hand screen, that is Mission Control here at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California.
And on the right side of your screen, a little place that feels like home, is Mission Control Houston at Space Center in Houston, Texas. While these crew members were on board since November, it's been 6 months, like we mentioned, they've seen 8 visiting vehicles arrive. That's everything from SpaceX 24, the cargo Dragon, that came up and brought resupply and science activities for the crew, as well as Progress resupply ships, a Northrop Grumman ship, 2 SpaceX Crew Dragons. Not only did they have Crew 4 arrive last week, a few weeks ago, Axiom 1 arrived aboard the International Space Station for a brief stay, and the Russian Prichal node module arrived at this time as well.
Yeah, that's a lot of spacecraft on the International Space Station. Probably pretty cool for the crew on board to, get to interact with so many different people arriving at station.
I call it space traffic.
Essentially what it is, yeah.
And that's how the astronauts get their food and their supplies. All of the water, or almost all of the water on board is recycled. But we have food sent up for the astronauts in those rehydratable packages. There are also meals ready to eat. That's what the crew on Crew Dragon will have to consume over the next 24-ish hours. But also science experiments. There are always hundreds of experiments happening aboard the International Space Station. We call it our orbiting laboratory, and that's what takes up a lot of the crew members' day.
We do have 2 versions of the Dragon vehicle. The one that you're seeing on your screen is Crew Dragon, and as Leah mentioned, the Cargo Dragon is basically designed to just fully carry cargo up to the space station. The Crew Dragon vehicle can also carry cargo as well. It is designed for 7 crew members. We have 4 members on board, so where we would have the other 3 seats is where we store cargo, which is just basically beneath the crew members on board Dragon. So can bring some cargo with them on the crew vehicle as well. You're just now joining us, you are tuned into the Crew-3 return back to Earth. The Crew-3 members have been on board the International Space Station for about 6 months now. With Crew-4 now on board station, they've already completed their handoff and they are...
Dragon SpaceX on the big loop for undocking.
Go ahead, Brendan.
Okay, Endurance, the reason that we paused was that we had assumed that that the timing issue was going to stop once 1553 was disconnected. We did not see that actually occur in this case, so we took a look back at some of the data that we had from our previous departures, as well as taking a look into the future about if this were an issue during undocking. And the result of that investigation led us to know that we have seen this behavior before. We had seen the timing issue resolve itself once the umbilical is retracted, and so we are comfortable proceeding with a new undocking attempt at a later time. How copy?
Copy, the 1553 disconnected and fix it, what we expect based on previous, but once we disconnect umbilicals, it should resolve itself, and then standing by for a new undocking time.
Good words, and we were also pretty confident that if it were to if it were still be the case during undocking, we will take some potential pauses if we don't see it resolve itself. Right now, ground is pulled go for the undocking time at 0515 UTC, so please confirm that your visors are still down and that you're ready for undocking.
The undock sequence started at 0515 and all visors are down.
SpaceX copies.
All right, getting really close now. We heard they're comfortable with that TDRS, Tracking Data and Relay Satellite System, time difference that they're seeing, and they expect that to resolve on its own after the umbilicals have retracted. And now we're looking for that undock sequence command to begin in just about 2 minutes. Again, we had some time to make sure that we have everything planned as we wanted to, because this is an hour-long undocking window. Coming up on a minute until the undock sequence begins.
And this undocking sequence will be an automatic undocking sequence. First, the umbilicals will retract, and then the latches will begin to, the hard latches on the docking adapter will unlatch. And they'll do that in 2 phases. It'll be the first 6 hard latches, and then followed by the second set of 6 hard latches. Then the vehicle will basically do a couple burns to push itself away from the International Space Station so that it's at a safe distance before it starts officially making its way back to Earth.
Undock sequence commanded.
docking, which will take. SpaceX inverts on the big loop. Looks like the umbilical retraction did the trick. They're seeing normal behavior on the team scanner.
Oh, believe me, Raja, we saw it. Umbilical demate complete and nominal.
They're talking to see the first group of possibilities.
And with that, we have confirmation that the undocking sequence has begun. We have heard that the timing issue that the crews were seeing on the TDRS clocks has been fixed. And with Dragon now getting ready to undock, let's go to Sandra Jones in Mission Control at Johnson Space Center.
Thanks, Leah and Jesse. Great to hear that all is proceeding as planned tonight for undocking. As you mentioned, the umbilicals have began to retract, and right now we're working on the sets of hooks to also separate Dragon from the International Space Station. Again, there's 2 sets of 6 hooks that we'll be looking to open, so a total of 12 hooks in all. And that first set of hooks has begun to open. Once all 12 hooks are open, Dragon will officially be undocked from the International Space Station, ending its 6-month mission aboard the orbiting outpost. And the first set of hooks are open, the second set is underway, and we have committed to undocking from the International Space Station. Crew 4 is heading home. Again, that first set of hooks is open and the second set is underway. Everything continuing to go as planned as the second set of hooks open. We should be hearing the call here shortly that the second set of hooks has opened.
All hooks open and nominal.
decoupling realizado.
And the Crew Dragon Endurance has undocked from the International Space Station.
Abriu o Dragon 3, se acopla com sucesso e agora segue esse procedimento totalmente automatizado de retorno à Terra, juntamente com os 4 astronautas.
The first undocking burn also proceeded nominally. And with the series of departure burns now underway.
Copy.
And a great view of Dragon as it departs from the International Space Station.
Side is the view inside Crew Dragon Endurance, looking over the seat of the commander and the pilot. You can see the screens there using to monitor their journey back home, but again, they don't need to make any action to continue Dragon's flight. This is all autonomous, and they use those screens to monitor the vehicle systems as well as where they are in the process.
Another really cool view from the International Space Station. You can see Dragon in your bottom right hand corner as it is moving slow and steady away from the International Space Station. We want to make sure that the vehicle is safe before it begins its several maneuvers to make its way back down to Earth. We have already completed burn 0, which is the first of 4 of the departure burns.
And hearing reports that trajectory is nominal or as planned for Crew Dragon Endurance. We're standing by for that depart burn 1, I should say, in about a minute and a half. This will increase the opening rate between Crew Dragon and the station. And again, there are no hold points during this departure sequence. We see crew members arrive and they stop at waypoint 2 or 1 or 0. Sometimes they're able to pass through after some go, no go polls, but it takes a lot less time to depart than it does to arrive. So again, standing by for that next departure burn happens about 5 minutes after separation, so only about a minute from now.
This is a cool view as Dragon is making its way out of the view. You can see how slow and steady it was hard to tell, but now that Dragon is out of the view, you can kind of see how slow it was moving away from the International Space Station. and as Liam mentioned, if you're just now joining us, we have completed departure burn 0, and we are now awaiting departure burn 1 coming up next.
You can tell it's a little bit darker outside now. That's because the Crew Dragon and International Space Station have entered orbital nighttime. They circle the Earth every 90 minutes, so they see a sunrise or sunset every 45 minutes. And they are now flying just southwest of New Zealand, about 271 statute miles over Earth.
And you can see on your screen some bursts happening there. These are the burns. Dragon is using its Draco thrusters to maneuver itself away from the International Space Station. That was a pretty cool view.
Dragon, you are go to doff your suits per procedure 4.012. And this is a reminder that ground will be deactivating the big loop following exit from the approach ellipsoid.
And Endurance copies, we've got to go to dock our suits, and copy will be taking down the big loop once we're outside the ellipsoid. Can you also confirm you're taking the cameras control?
That is affirmative.
Thanks very much, and Station Endurance, thanks for the warm send-off. Good luck to Expedition 67. It was great being up there with you guys. Can't wait to see the awesome work you guys continue to do on an amazing portable laboratory.
Thanks, Endurance. Appreciate the kind words. Had a great time handing over with you all, and look forward to seeing your smiling faces on the ground.
Tivemos
And station with that, Dragon
a
has
Crew
exited the keep-out sphere.
3 se afastaram lentamente da
And
Estação Espacial
confirmation that
Internacional.
both Depart Burn 0 and 1 are now complete. And Crew Dragon has exited the keep-out sphere. That's the imaginary boundary or sphere about 200 meters in radius around the station. It's one of several safety zones.
And Dragon SpaceX on Dragon to ground for some suit doffing actions.
Go ahead on Dragon to ground for suit dumping actions.
Okay, the cameras have been taken external, so you guys are go for those suit doffing actions. Just one note for you, Tom. When you are getting out of your suit, if you want to go ahead and give me a call, I have a couple of things that we'd like to do to inspect your umbilical just to get a better understanding of if there's anything out of config. A copy.
Nesse momento, a Estação Espacial Internacional entra na área da noite, né? A área da noite. E ela tem uma rota para passar por cima dos Estados Unidos agora, como vocês observam aí no mapa. Esse mapa mostra em tempo real, aproximado da Estação Espacial Internacional. Vemos aqui a latitude, a longitude, a altitude dela e a velocidade que ela está e a data e a hora. Horário GMT, claro.
That call coming from the core here in Hawthorne to the crew aboard Crew Dragon, letting
Vemos
them know
duas
the cameras
câmeras.
will be off while they take off their spacesuits and get
A
themselves
câmera de cima
comfortable
do
for the
lado
journey home. As we
esquerdo,
mentioned, they
do
have
alto,
exited the keep-out
já
sphere,
vemos
that
a
200
Crew
meter
bem
boundary around the space
fraquinha já,
station. They're now about
entrando na
300
penumbra.
meters away from the station. But before moving out into the keep-out sphere,
E
spacecraft have to be
aqui do
configured
lado
where they would not
direito
cross
da
that
tela
imaginary
embaixo,
boundary
vemos a
in
câmera
orbit,
que
even
fica
if the
apontada para a
spacecraft
Terra
lost all
da Estação Espacial Internacional. Aqui,
We are now waiting for
já
Dragon
na
to
área
exit
escura
the
e
approach
uns poucos
ellipsoid, or
raios
the
do Sol
AE, which is another imaginary
vão
shape. This time it's a three-dimensional
saindo
ellipsoid
aqui.
measuring 4 by 2
A
by 2
missão
kilometers in the same family as the keep-out sphere.
de decoupling está começando. Aqui é aproximadamente meio-dia
Outside it have to be
e 5, horário da costa leste, por volta de 1 e pouca da tarde aqui no Brasil. A Crew-3 para o seu splashdown. Nós vamos estar aqui acompanhando. Bom, espero que todos tenham gostado. Ainda vamos acompanhar mais as informações. Daqui a pouco a gente volta para finalizar lá com vocês.
Marshburn about the umbilical on his suit. They were just talking about the umbilical that connects his spacesuit to the Dragon itself. That helps provide calm, cooling air while they're in the suits. Of course, while they are in their more comfortable clothes for this journey home, he won't be connected to that, and they can talk through a cabin microphone instead.
Yeah, and they did also mention that they can doff their suits or remove their suits. So as Liam mentioned, they are starting to get comfortable, and they do have, a 23-hour journey on the way back home. So it'll be nice to get out of those suits, even though they are like a personal AC system for them.
They look comfortable.
Again, we are waiting for the Dragon vehicle to confirm that it is outside of the approach ellipsoid, or the AE.
And everything has been moving pretty smoothly for Dragon so far. We are on a nominal or normal trajectory, and the next burn isn't coming up for another 42 minutes, so Dragon is still cruising on those burns, depart burns 0 and 1 that we actually saw. I love that view. And those burns come from the service section Draco thrusters. Those are used for smaller maneuvers rather than the bulkhead Draco thrusters, which are under the nose cone.
For the crew members.
And the crew members can control the temperature on Crew Dragon, or they can ask the ground to control it for them. Nice to have that option.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, we got to see the Draco thrusters. I think that was like one of the coolest views that I've been able to see. There's 12 thrusters in the service section, and they're all actually pointing in different directions, and that's so that it basically has a 360-degree control of Dragon as it's, maneuvering out in space. So it was really cool to see all of them firing at the same time.
We're about halfway out of the approach ellipsoid. That's that 4 kilometer by 2 by 2 kilometer imaginary shape. Actually, I've heard it called the pizza box because of its shape around the International Space Station. And so we use this and the keep out sphere for all vehicles that arrive and depart the International Space Station. That helps the teams monitor where vehicles are, if they're ready to cross those boundaries, and eventually dock or undock with the space station.
Bom, a NASA, ela está mirando
Mission Control Houston are also monitoring because we are still
splashdown
in joint operations.
por
That happens
volta
when Dragon is inside the approach ellipsoid. So once Dragon crosses
das
that
12
boundary,
horas
it will come
45
back to
minutos,
Hawthorne
vai ser
as the
o horário
prime
da
monitoring,
cobertura, amanhã.
location for the vehicle.
O-
But while we're close or docked to
O
the
splashdown,
International
melhor
Space
dizendo,
Station,
às
we're in those joint operations. So
12 horas
6 months of
43
these teams
minutos.
working together on Crew 3, they continue working together every day because we have Crew 4 on board as well.
Na costa da Flórida que vai ser.
And there you can see the teams on your screen, on your left-hand
O
screen.
retorno da
It's
teleconferência
Hawthorne, and on your right-hand
de
screen is
mídia
Mission Control Houston.
após o splashdown será por volta das 2 horas e 30 minutos, horário da costa leste, de amanhã, 6 de maio. De hoje, melhor dizer, 6 de maio. Ou melhor, 6 de maio.
So we don't expect a change to the splashdown time. We're still targeting tomorrow night around 9:43 p.m. Pacific or 1:43 a.m. Eastern off the coast of Florida. There will be teams out on a boat to recover the crew after they splash down. And after splashdown, they'll be removed from the vehicle. They will go through some casual medical checks and then eventually board a helicopter and be brought back to land, where they will board a NASA jet to fly back to see their families in Houston.
Ou seja, as duas queimas foram realizadas já com sucesso e a Crew já prossegue aí com o seu caminho retornando para a Terra.
Hour is that it's trying to travel forward, but Earth's gravity is continually pulling it down. So that keeps it in that orbit around Earth constantly. So moving Dragon above the space station reduces the pull of Earth's gravity and helps it slow down. So the space station will actually pass in front of Crew Dragon, and then Crew Dragon will later re-enter the atmosphere.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people forget how quickly the vehicles are moving, especially when we got to see, Dragon moving slowly away from the International Space Station. They're still going 17,500 miles per hour at that point, which is incredibly fast.
I've got 4 items here for you to check out on your suit and your seat if you're ready to copy. give you the call that Dragon has exited the approach ellipsoid and is on a safe free drift trajectory. Houston's going to be taking down that big loop shortly, so expect the ISS audio traffic to cease.
Okay, we copy exiting the approach ellipsoid, and then we'll be taking down the big loop.
Good readback. Okay, the 4 items that I have for suit inspection. Number 1 is to take a look at both of the latches on the suit side of umbilical, just seeing if there's anything funky about one or the other, like less force to actuate or anything that seems weird.
Copy this, and we're now inspecting latches on both sides of the suit umbilical.
Okay, do you want me to keep reading them off, or do you want to get back to me on that?
We're kind of doing it simo while you're talking, so Matthias went ahead and reconnected the umbilical to the suit, and he felt like he had to jiggle it and apply extra force to get clicks on both sides.
Okay, copy that. When Matthias connected it, it felt like he had to use extra force to get it to actually click and get both latches to seat down. Is that a good readback?
To include shaking it back and forth, kind of a jiggle maneuver to get them to go in.
Okay, copy that. Some extra force and a shaking or a jiggling for the umbilical to actually get it to seat in correctly. Okay, second item that I have is that when able, check and just see if there are any
Bom, galera,
retractions.
vocês estão acompanhando com a gente o decoupling da Crew-3, a Dragon Crew-3, juntamente com os 4 astronautas da rotação referente à Crew Dragon 3. Bom, para quem não me conhece, meu nome é Robson Rodrigues, sou repórter, editor e apresentador aqui do canal Olhar Sideral. Muito obrigado pela audiência de todos. E agradecemos muitíssimo a curtida e o like de vocês. Vocês que vão assistir mais tarde, muito obrigado a todos. Se puder, se inscreva no canal, deixe o seu joinha para dar aquela força. E por aqui a gente já vai encerrando. Lembrando que sexta-feira, por volta de 1 da tarde, meio-dia e 40 e pouco, horário da Costa Leste, 1h30 aproximadamente, aqui no Brasil, sexta-feira, 6 de maio, tá bom? Temos um encontro aqui marcado aqui no canal Olhar Sideral com o splashdown da Crew Dragon 3. Bom, muito obrigado mais uma vez, espero que vocês tenham gostado. Deixar um grande abraço a todos, o apoio cultural da internet, da maior e melhor rede fibra ótica de toda a região, atendendo ao sul do Espírito Santo, norte fluminense, norte e noroeste fluminense, também chegando à região dos lagos, no Grande Rio. E você que quer uma internet com estabilidade, com velocidade, que atenda às suas necessidades, acesse o site www.internet.com.br, confira esse combo 200 MB mais o Wi-Fi Metro para mãos, instalação grátis por R$ 89,99. Precisa de uma velocidade um pouco maior? Tem também 600 MB, instalação grátis por R$ 129,99, mas tem Wi-Fi Metro para mãos mais Noguin e Hero. Vale a pena, confira. Além dos combos de internet, tem também outras facilidades muito interessantes. Confira. Acesse o site www.internet.com.br. Bom, espero mais uma vez que tenham todos gostado. Fiquem todos com uma ótima madrugada de quinta-feira. Já se aproximando do final de semana. Lembrando que 6 de maio, a partir de 1 da tarde, 1h30 da tarde, estaremos aqui novamente com a cobertura do splashdown da Crew Dragon 3. Obrigado a todos, fiquem todos com Deus na fé de cada um e até a próxima, se assim Deus nos permitir. Tchau, tchau.